What I mentioned to everyone in the classroom was today's the first day of school at St. Mary's, and the assembly took exactly 95 minutes to complete. So I'm kidding, not literally, but close to that. But anyways, welcome. We'll just get the final piece to the puzzle set up and we'll get started. Today's lecture for everyone here, really excited because this is the kind of fulcrum, the swinging point, the gate that gets us from last week that was super foundational, right? And the characters and stuff to the actual fighting of the war. We start fighting the war next Tuesday, the Battle of the Frontiers, onto the Battle of the Marne, the opening of the Western Front, the Schlieffen Plan. Actually Thursday, I think Tuesday, we go back to the assassination and talk about the July crisis, but then by Thursday, by next week, we're already in the war itself. This week, and again, I'm going to follow the syllabus perfectly faithfully, hopefully throughout the semester. If you saw the themes, we're talking about 1871 to 1900 today, and then 1900 to 1913. What's really exciting or scary or just impressive is over the course of these 40 some years from 1871 to 1914, from this seminal event, which is still, even though it happens right at the beginning of our timeline, and I'm pointing to the Franco-Prussian War, by the way, for those of you on Zoom, even though that's the beginning of our timeline, that arguably is one of the main causes of the war in 1914, 40 some years later. But you're going to see today the 10 points we're going to cover. And then next class, I have another 10 points. There's 20 things that happen basically from the Franco-Prussian War onto the assassination of the Archduke that if you came to the first class, you might think, oh, this breaks out randomly. It's a random terrorist kind of thing. There's a lot of water under the bridge before we actually get started and before the fighting kind of breaks out in full in that August. Okay. Good. Betsy, I have kind of a map for you today.
Oh, good.
Kind of. Picture of a guy looking at a map. Yeah, so. Not even a cake. Yeah, that's a cupcake. Well. Go talk to your mother. Okay, let's see. Guess when happiness peaks in your life? I looked this up. Guess what age?
24.
23. And what's the back end? There's two times. And I'm not even kidding. This thing, yeah, freaking yeah. I'm not even kidding. Right around 70, late 60s. That's amazing. I guess when you think about it, right, that makes sense, right? You're so idealistic in your 20s. And it's a great photo. Look at that. That's amazing quality too. That is freaking awesome. We're just gonna keep that up the whole time.
There's a reflection of the
well, hit that light. Who can hit that light for me? Anyone? Becca Schmidt, do you mind?
So is this how a good teacher is supposed to teach?
Yeah, he looks like
all
that
dressed up.
That kid looks scared though.
Pointing at a really good map.
Look, that's right. Brian and Meg and everyone on I was gonna say Twitter almost on Zoom. That's the photo. It's gonna be. We'll revisit that in a second. I'll let you know what that is exactly.
What's the other one?
Actually, Becca, I'm so sorry. Can you put the light back on? I'm so sorry.
What's the other map behind?
I have that one right there. That's what they thought the world looked like. That like a painting. Yeah, it's a sea creature. So it's the Loch Ness Monster rescued. What do you call it? Predicted would burst into flames or something in the 2000s. Okay, so let me see. Here we go. Can everyone see the board okay with this lighting? It's okay. No one has worried about this. All right. Very good. Okay. Franco-Prussian War. Franco-Prussian War. This is my favorite thing because I served in this war. It's a stupid joke, right? By the way, happiness peaks at 23 and 68 because when you think about it, when you're 20, who here is like 23? I'm 23, yeah. So like I get it. When you're I love you guys all. Really, I really do. You guys make me so happy. It's so fun. Dude, when you're 23, right? You're idealistic, right? I want to tell you something. Like, oh man, there's a book called Insatiability. Please never read it. Okay, it's this Polish author named Ignacy. right? Very, very famous guy. I'm dead serious. This is all true. I promise this is true. Okay, I promise. He wrote a book called Insatiability in the 1920s, which was incredibly prophetic. I assigned it for my class at Illinois called Fiction, Historical Imagination. It's an epic, epic book. New Northwestern made a translation of it, press. And it's so epic because it tells a story of the 1920s, how people, society will eventually drug themselves into accepting like tyrannical slavery. This drug is coming from the East called Damanesque B2, and they take it specifically, and it's a very like scary thing on like the pharmaceutical problems in America kind of there's a pill for everything, like, hey, Dave, take this pill if your nose itches weird, whatever, just kind of like over kind of stimulated unto like, well, that's the whole point. We're trying to be sedated to have this kind of wave of people come conquer your country. Anyways,
And what's it called?
insatiability. Insatiability. It's amazing. Now, but here's the problem. It is horrifyingly sexually explicit. So I assigned it simply because it's a classic. It's horrible. Like the main character in there, who's the worst character, is this Princess Tigaroga, and she is a woman 40 years old with like endless libido, and just like, and her and this guy, the main character Zip, they just like, the author really is gross. Like he'll go on like 2 pages describing like 30 times. It's nasty. The reason I'm talking about the story, and again, it's probably not worth reading unless you're like in a specific class, but an older guy counsels Zip, and he tells Zip, who's 23 years old, Zip, you have no idea how bad life is. You don't understand how bad life sucks. And he goes on to explain how life is so awful. When you're 23, you have no idea, right? 23, you're so happy because I'm excited. Things are great, and it's got my degree, and life is awesome. Yay! Smiley emoji. Well, then you realize, wow, life is freaking hard in your 30s and 40s, right? But you
Well, I thought the 30s and 40s were better, and I thought the 23 was like living in a soap opera.
well, good for you. Well, you reverse engineered the paradigm.
It was the happiest time of my life.
But I imagine, right? Like they say you're like youthful idealism returns by 68, God willing. You've had a good career, whatever, and you go back to like, yeah, life, I'm very thankful, I'm grateful, whatever. Anyways, 23 and 68. Yeah, and don't read insatiability. Okay, Franco-Prussian War, 1870 to 71. France mobilizes in July, attacks in August. All right. Be very grateful to me, thank me later for how simple I'm going to explain some of these things today, because when we get to the war, you're going to have out of your ears military kind of theory and description of battles. Like I said, we're going to spend some time talking about the Somme and the Verdun, inch by inch on the battlefield kind of stuff. So this stuff again is very, very just preliminary. Is the word I'm looking for, right? Why does France attack Germany? Well, France at this time, okay, is the second empire ran by N.3, by the artist formerly known as N.3. Who is that? It's an abbreviation. That's not his real name. Who is N.3? Napoleon III, okay, nephew of the famous Napoleon. And they are an empire ever since 1852, okay? France, if you remember from my previous lecture last week, France has always, and by the way, Brian and Meg, I so apologize. I'm going to put myself on the screen for you guys on Zoom. You can hear my voice, that's great, but it's not a podcast. We're doing live TV. France is always going back between, it has like a dual personality, right? It's going between an empire and a super American style republic. The Ancien Regime, right, the ancient regime going back for thousands of years is toppled by the French Revolution. Great, liberty, fraternity, equality, republicanism. Well, that gets reversed by Napoleon. Well, Napoleon loses at Waterloo, so now more republicanism. Then the Orleans dynasty and the risings of 1848, more power to the people. All you have to know is France is constantly going back between a republic and the idea that the Republican values the power to the people and the king. At this point, kingship is in vogue, Napoleon is in power, and the French decide, well, what is their attitude towards the Germans constantly? The French have a common root with the Germans. You look at like a Pepin the Breath going back to the 840s. Okay, real, like, I'll take you back to the 840s and you'll be like, 1840 feels like 1997. 1840 is comfortable, I know that. What is 840? What is that even real? That's a conspiracy. History started at 1200. In the 8th for Charlemagne, right? Charlemagne, one of the most important dates in Western history, he's crowned Holy Roman Emperor in the year 800 AD on Christmas Day by the Pope. From him will come, out of that great Germanic mix of people out of the former Roman Empire, will come both the French and the Germans. The French and Germans are cousins, brothers in a certain sense, obviously, I mean, they share a border, all this kind of stuff. They hate each other though, right? Okay, France is going to mobilize and attack Germany because they just hate the Germans. Let's get them while we can, okay? And they think, right, Germany's kind of like flexing some muscle. What did Germany just do 4 years earlier? Remember from the last class. What did Germany do 4 years earlier? They will soon. This is why this is so key. But good, you're on the right track. You're on the right track, really. I'm serious. It's a good answer. It's 80% on the right track. Think about the German Empire, the confederation of German states that were kind of chilling in the middle of Europe post-Napoleon. Big question is it going to be Catholic Austria, Vienna, or Protestant Prussian Berlin? That question was settled 4 years earlier in the Austro-Prussian War. The Prussians had defeated the Austrians, all right, and put them in their place and said, okay, unification is going to be around a Protestant Prussian Berlin model in the north. Which is very, very sad because Vienna is better. But that's how history went. Well, the French decide we want to get them before they get too big, before they do what they're going to do. Your answer was perfect. That's what's going to happen here. They're going to declare for the first time, no ancien regime back and forth. For the first time, they're going to give birth to the German Empire, this terrifying entity as far as their rivals thought. At the conclusion of this war, spoiler, Germans win, right? The French want to try to avoid that. So the French, and by the way, this is a very key word. What does it mean to mobilize? You're gonna mobilize so much in a couple lectures with the July crisis that you're gonna like not like the word. You're gonna have nightmares about the word. All the characters of your worst nightmares, like the goblin guy and the person from high school you didn't like, they'll mobilize in your dreams. You will see like the mobilization of my nightmare enemies. What does it mean to mobilize an army?
To assemble and move.
Yeah, to kind of put on highest alert. This is the line, okay? Here I'm at war, okay? To mobilize means I'm back here, they're looking at the line, nothing's going on. Now we're like this. That's mobilize, put to the brink. In the July crisis, one of the biggest steps towards outright war really begins August 1st. Let's just make it like just a clean date. It begins August 1st, 1914, you can say. That's when everyone at that moment's gonna declare war on each other the next 5 days, like a week of just, I declare war on you, you on me, whatever. One of the most fateful decisions is July 30th, Russia mobilizes its army. That's gonna be a huge click. Like, well, if Russia mobilized and they're standing here, we have to mobilize. It becomes mobilization equals a snowball rolling downhill. French mobilize and they attack in August. Oh, but the Germans, wow. They don't just sit back and be like, okay, they're like, we're gonna attack. Okay, we are going to attack. So the Germans, while the French start mobilizing and start moving to German territory, they attack back on a different path, back through into French territory. Okay, immediately what becomes apparent is the superiority of the field technology, the weaponry of the German army. This will be true throughout World War I as well. Okay, there's a great book written by a gentleman named Mosser, M-O-S-E-R. All right. And he argues that the Germans won World War I. Sorry to say this to you, I'm going to make that argument too in this class. And then you, the jury, will decide, but I'm going to prosecute that case. The Germans absolutely win World War I. Their territory taken, technology, less casualties. It becomes the moment though where we all strike up the battle hymn of the Republic, raise the flag really high, and eat apple pie. It is because of the Americans coming in at the end, because of us. It's true. It was really cheesy. The meathead guy in the gym, right? Who has the shirt back-to-back World War champions. You're like, wow, bro, you bought that shirt. Wow. Or some of you wore it, you're wearing it. The proof's in the pudding. It's right. We are. We really are. America, we won our global hegemony, our status as a world superpower by saving Europe twice in these world wars. Otherwise, Germany absolutely wins the First World War. If Americans never show up, some kind of mediated peace happens, and Germans keep, see so much of the Western Front they win in Belgium and parts of France. And Germans, the victory in the East is astronomical. When the Bolshevik Revolution happens, which I hinted at already in the first class, when the Bolsheviks come in, they're like, yeah, take everything. I mean, basically, the Germans, this becomes immediately apparent. So there's a swift series of victories, a swift, quick victory, series of victories, where the Germans cut the French in half, basically. And to add insult to cut in half, I mean, cut their armies in half, encircle them completely. There's no other way to say it. They kick France's butt. I mean, like here's what happens. Here's what happens. I got to show you a video. Oh man, this is the Franco-Prussian War. This is epic. Oh man. Okay, who here is a baseball fan? I am. Anyone else a baseball fan? Okay, what happens when a person? What happens when? Okay, I'm a pitcher. I throw at Dave Schmidt. Right, he's batting. I don't like him. I hate that guy. He's a former teammate. Last time he left us in the lurch. He's supposed to resign. He's a good player. He left. The first time I throw a ball at his head. Right? What happens often in baseball games? What does Dave Schmidt do? I throw a ball at his head. What does he do? He charges the mound. He comes out to fight me, right? We associate fights with hockey. But in baseball, what happens is I throw Dave Schmidt. He comes and charges the mound. A pitcher usually like drops his glove, whatever, right? Watch what happens though. So this here, I'm gonna show you here. Brian and Meg, I'll find a way to share this with you guys.
Let's go back to 2003.
Okay, this is Germany. The pitcher is Germany. Okay, the batter is France. The batter is going to try to come get Germany. He's going to attack first, but watch what happens. Ready? Everyone ready for this? Everyone see this? Okay, that guy is Germany. In the Franco-Prussian War, the batter is France.
Cubs versus Reds. Farnsworth is facing the pitcher, opposing starting pitcher.
Come on.
Let's go back to 2003. Cubs versus Reds. Farnsworth is facing the pitcher, opposing starting pitcher. Paul Wilson is just trying to bunt the runner at first, over to second. Farnsworth pitch, tails inside. The runner gets to second anyway. So basically he laid down the bunt. Now Wilson can just hit that home run he's always talking about hitting. He looks at Farnsworth, says, throw it in again and see what happens. Farnsworth says, why don't you just do it now? He says, okay, I'll charge you now.
France.
Farnsworth says, oh, you're stupid.
That's
and just slams the shit out of him.
That
I love
never
the moment
happens.
where
Okay.
Wilson's
And
here.
when a person charges the mound, the action's always been
And he
down.
looks
Pitchers like get scared, whatever.
around like, oh shit, is anything there to break my fall?
Let me thinking about a better version of this, not this guy's commentary. Okay, it's worth it. I'm serious. This always happens. Farnsworth, Wilson. Oh man. Okay, maybe this is it. Maybe it's a better version. Again, I can't stress this enough.
Chase My Home makes it surprisingly simple to see ways you can own your home sooner.
But when a person charges a mound, the action is always out at the mound. The pitcher is scared and he waits back here. He never comes and gets the guy. Again, France attacks first, but this is what Germany does. This is the best analogy I can use for what happens in this war. Yes,
That's a big run over at first base. And it's a pitch off the glove of Miller. So they don't have to sacrifice now. As Homero goes, and now Wilson and Farnsworth get into it. Oh, a takedown by Farnsworth, and a couple of haymakers landed. Whoa. Wilson takes exception. Farnsworth comes up ahead, and we've got a Donnybrook. Bench is empty, and they're trying to pull folks off the pile. A takedown by Farnsworth and Wilson right out of the pages of WWF Wrestling.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
And so order finally restored here. They're going to try to send Reds over to their dugout. Farnsworth comes up and in on Wilson, who was trying to bunt. The pitch was a wild pitch. Looks like Wilson got the worst of that. There were some haymakers landed by Farnsworth. There's no doubt about that. Wilson said something when Farnsworth came.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not even I'm not even kidding. I'm dead serious. Is this like facetious and funny and stupid and stuff? Yeah, that I'm serious. I just thought of this now. Like I didn't plan showing that video. That is literally what it was like. France attacks first, gets a little bit in Germany, and then like, oh wait, what? And then the field technology is so severe and so impressive. They just absolutely blow France to smithereens. To add insult to injury, when they cut up their army, divide them in half, they also capture Napoleon. Okay, they capture their king. That's impossible. That never happens. In World War I, there's never a moment where they're like, yeah, we're gonna capture the Kaiser. That's never on the table. Okay, or we're gonna come capture the French president. The armies fight. The politicians are gonna stay behind. They actually capture the king. Immediately, what do the people back at home in France do? They support their king, right? Like, no, great. We want. Thanks for helping us out. They declare the Third French Republic, right? So they immediately surrender. which is not typical for the French. They immediately say, that's fine, we didn't like Napoleon anyways. They declare the Third Republic. But what happens, so this, by the way, happens, remember, July is when France mobilizes, August 1870 they attack. The war is over January 28th, 1871. Okay, so the war lasts 4 or 5 months. Before I get to this last part here, what do you think is the temptation here? Put yourself in 1914. Think as a German. You don't know what the Schlieffen Plan is yet, but I'll explain to you in 5 seconds now. The Schlieffen Plan is basically, how do we Germany avoid fighting a two-front war? Because we're gonna have to fight France and Russia. Well, we can do this to the French, attack through Belgium and just obliterate them. And the Russians are so backwards and slow, they won't be able to mobilize in time, and then we'll avoid a two-front war. What is the temptation with this striking, incredible, I mean, it's an immediate victory. What is the temptation for war planners in World War I, looking back to the Franco-Prussian War? A lot of them, these are like 68-year-old, happiest time of their life, will look back to the other happiest time of life when they're 23 and they fought in this war. What a, right?
I think it'd be quick and easy.
Exactly. This idea of Guster Liebnis, the love of August, it's just like the American Civil War. We'll talk a lot about this in July Crisis. People think it's going to be quick and easy because it was. They didn't make this out of nowhere. They were like, look, our crappy 1870 like iPhone 2 tech defeated the French in 6 weeks. The stuff we have now, 6 days maybe, the French are a joke. That's the German attitude. And we're going to see why all the kind of jokes about, oh, the national French flag is white and the French just surrendered is not true. The French are some of the most bravest fighters in the First World War, and they hold so well, and it's so shocking. And the guy who will do in World War I this plan has a nervous breakdown. God bless him. Von Moltke, he has to be removed from power. And remember, I didn't even show von Moltke because he's head of the German command with me for like 1 day in World War I. Falkenhayn, if you jog back a couple last week, you won't recognize his face like out of the ether right now, but we showed his face. Falkenhayn has to take over his command because of this. So this is so great here, but it becomes it kind of poisons the well later on, thinking, oh, it's going to be so easy, exactly as Betsy said. All right, quick victory equals the end of the Second Empire. The Republic is proclaimed. Key, there you go, thank you. The German Empire is proclaimed, okay, right? Kaiser Wilhelm at the helm. The German Empire equals all of the German states and kind of principalities minus Austria, okay? They say to the Austrians, like, look, we fought a war with you guys. We're really excited about 1879. We can see into the future. We're excited in 9 years in the future. We have this great alliance with you guys. You guys are Catholics, we're Protestants, but we're all Germans. We're going to be great allies. You're not going to be incorporated into the empire. And Austrians, they don't want that. Who incorporates the Austrians into a larger German empire? Who will do this? Anyone know? Who knows their history very well? Adolf Hitler. It's something called the Anschluss in 1938. He will actually incorporate Austria into the German Reich. But at this time, that's not going to happen. Triple star, Alsace Lorraine. Betsy, map. This is Alsace Lorraine right here. This little purple area right here. Brian and Meg and Your Holiness, everyone else on Zoom. Pope Francis. Yeah, he's on. I don't know why you think it's funny he joins the Zoom. Yeah, it's like 4 o'clock in Rome. It's before his nap. Yeah, it's great. This little purple area right here where this guy's pointing. Okay, this northeastern area is Alsace Lorraine. Okay, Alsace Lorraine is super bonkers famous. To this day, the main city there is Strasbourg. Strasbourg is basically has like a Moscow Pullman quality of like being on the border of Germany and France, the way we're on a borderland here. Strasbourg is a bilingual city, of course, French and German. It's the head of the European Parliament. And what's very cool and interesting is what happened in 1905 in France. What was a scandalous thing? Remember, I was so scandalized, and I am. I stand scandalized. I remain as such. What happened in 1905 in France? What law was passed? Remember? The separation of church and state. The kind of rejection of France's patrimony, laicity. And I asked you, is there any? You call it to God for help, and you live a virtuous life. Should you expect help? Yeah, I think have faith in that, right? But you, curse God and do evil stuff on purpose. Should you not expect chastisement? Is there any comparison? And I'm proposing this. I'm not saying there is. I don't know. I will never claim to be able to plumb the unfathomable depths of God's justice. But is there any connection between 1905 saying, yeah, we hate Catholicism and everything about God, and then 10 years later, 50% of people are dead in a horrible war. I don't know. There is no application to this day, I think, of laicity in Alsace Lorraine, because between 1871 and 1914, God bless the Germans, Alsace Lorraine was part of Germany. So when that law was passed, it did not apply to all French provinces. That was not a French province. I think in Strasbourg today, there's no, it's much like greater level of religious freedom even. It doesn't apply. There's some, in that commune, there's some kind of more laxity in a sense, because a lot of these things were passed. This was part of Germany. Now, my friends, oh my gosh, I can't stress this. Arguably, I'm not saying that it is. Next class, I'm going to sum up very nice and sum up this plus the next 10. Here's 20 causes. Here, put 20 causes in your pocket and do with it what you like. Because there's a lot of argument amongst historians. What actually causes the First World War? Alsace Lorraine always has to be on the list. Before though, let me make a note on the Paris Commune. Because listen, as this is going on, this was a total disaster, right? The king is captured. He, was forced to abdicate, right? A new republic is proclaimed, German Empire, the Germans' stunning victory. Back at home, the Paris Commune comes into being. What was the Paris Commune? Any idea what this is? The Paris Commune is in place from January of 1871 through May already, a couple of months of 1871, around from the time of the actual fall of the French in the war through the next coming half year, kind of settling down. What is the Paris Commune? Anyone know? Who loves the Paris Commune? It literally is a kind of communist Marxist utopian state that gets set up in Paris, equipped with blockades too. Okay, I'm going to show you pictures of this today. Meaning like these Marxist radical guys are like, well, hey, Napoleon got captured. We don't want a republic. We want a communist utopia. This is 1871. We've read Das Kapital. We've read the Communist Manifesto that came out 23 years earlier in 1848. We love these ideas, love Marx and Engels and blah, 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 blah. Paris Commune, you're never going to believe what they believed in, right? This is not at all what communists believe in the USSR today, right? Listen, they are progressive, anti-religious, separation of church and state, self-policing, rights of employees take over enterprise, whenever. Okay, right. I'm obviously being complete tongue-in-cheek. This is just the typical communist kind of stuff that people that they did in the USSR, that people on the extreme left want to do to America today. And I'm not telling you how to feel about that. It's awesome. It's horrifying. And it's up for you to decide. My job is not to judge ideas so much as to present information to you. You tell me how you feel about it. But this is standard stuff, right? The Archbishop of Paris, Georges Darbois, it becomes a hostage, becomes shot in this very, very tragically and sad, as he's going out and trying to help people find food, whatever. To this day, though, a lot of leftist sympathizers like to focus on something called the Semaine Sanglante, which means the bloody week. And this is when the repression kind of when the order kind of comes, okay? And what does the order mean? I mean, we were the French Empire, Napoleon got captured, we lost. We're gonna have now a republic. We're not gonna have these crazy leftist wackos running the show. We have to put them down. The Republicans, right, have to put these guys down. Between 6,000 and 7,000 people are killed or executed in a week in Paris, maybe as high as 20,000, meaning that the new government of the French execute all these communist radical guys. But in some ways, this is a preview of what? What is the Paris Commune a very glimpse preview of for World War I? What? Very small, what? Very small taste. Here, come try my soup. Here's a little spoon first. What is it? What's the soup? The Communist Revolution, right? The Bolshevik Revolution. The Bolshevik Revolution is the Paris Commune that succeeds, right? That lasts and creates the USSR. It's just out of this thing, often communism, as you know, succeeds when society is like completely leveled to nothing. Right? There were great communist movements in Berlin in 1919 at the end of the war. And there was great communist movements for communism in America in the 1930s and the Great Depression. Because, hey, you guys have nothing, it's fault of capitalism. Let's try communism. It's a very kind of standard thing. But that's not to pick on communists, although maybe we always should, and kick them while they're down. But not to pick on just communists, but people always do this, right? Come on. Like the Democrats are in power, vote Republican, obviously. Republicans are in power, you gotta vote Democrat. Like everyone just does this. Whoever's in power always sucks, and we have the answers, all the answers, right? When I run for governor, I actually will have the answers. It won't just be a slogan. That's what I'm gonna say. My campaign was, I have all the answers. Trust me. No, really though. That's my actual. And then asterisk. I hope. It's like that at the bottom. I don't know. Maybe
I
In
approve
the
this
small print?
message.
in the small print. Yeah. I maybe approve this message.
Some of it.
I approve.
Some of this message.
I approve the majority of this message. It's kind of like our product isn't exclusively tested on animals. You know, like maybe a little bit. Revanchism. Okay, revanchism. Revanchisme. Pronunciation, which is always better. Plus and minus. Revanchism, revenge. Okay, how do you spell revanchism? REVANCHISM X. X is silent. Revanchism is Alsace Lorraine. It's connected to irredentism. Remember irredentism? I talked a little about that. I said irredentism. Look, I'm so pumped. I'm serious. I love when these things connect. I've already talked about how like this thing, right? Mobilization, we're connecting everything in this class to World War I. Mobilization, same thing. The quick victories can be World War I. The communism, we see so much is connected here. So is the idea of revanchism. Why does Gavrilo Princip, the Serbian Black Hand terrorist, shoot Franz Ferdinand? Because of irredentism / revanchism. He's mad. The Austro-Hungarians, we talked a little about this today, took land he believes belonged to the Serbians. And so no act is outside of the justification, their own justification, if you can take back what is rightfully ours. Revanchism, revenge means reclaiming something that is lost that belongs to us. That is one of the most famous photos, the pictures, excuse me, of these school children, right? Again, I have an 8-year-old son. That kid maybe was like 10, 11, I don't know. He's a little bit older, but like little kids, literally, and I'm using this word intentionally, brainwashing them into this fanaticism over Alsace-Lorraine, right? Do you see that boy? Do you see that territory there? It would be the greatest honor, the greatest thing you could do for La France. It would be to die trying to reclaim that. And a lot of kids who grow up and will be, alive in World War I have in their mind, I kid you not, that I need to get Alsace-Lorraine back as bad as like, what do people like today? Like the latest Bieber album, I don't know. Like that's the Alsace-Lorraine of today. Like I will do anything to listen to.
Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Exactly. That's brilliant. The Ireland were not the terrible troubles, the Good Friday Agreement. Thank God that 1998 ended that. But that idea now with the backstop and EU stuff, that is revanchism, irredentism, exactly. No, as Irish patriot, there should be no freaking Northern Ireland. It's one beautiful Emerald Isle. No, we're Protestants in Ulster. We belong to. That's exactly this. That's perfect. It's exactly the thing. These land disputes are as old as time. And this may be the main cause of World War I, that a huge amount of French people grow up being like, no matter what, over my dead body, I'll get Alsace-Lorraine. Do you like Alsace-Lorraine? It sucks, actually. Do you know where it is? No idea. But we need to get it back. Probably a lot of people like that. A lot of like Twitter heroes, like who couldn't find it on a map, but we got to get it back no matter what. Bring me my natty light, and then it's get Alsace-Lorraine, like that kind of crap. Like I'm sure a lot of it was total garbage. Just fake political machismo. Chauvinism, by the way. What does chauvinism mean? I am a chauvinist, right? You would probably, he's a sexist, right? That's how it's colloquially used. You don't know what chauvinism means, actually? The reason male chauvinism is not an oxymoron, or it's not a redundancy. Because chauvinism doesn't mean, again, a person who's all about men and doesn't like women or thinks women are second-class citizens. Chauvinism means extreme patriotism. So that's why someone calls a male chauvinist. That's the colloquial term, like he's so patriotic about men. A chauvinist actually, by definition, refers to being to country. It means like gross patriotism. Chauvinism means not good, like I myself, I love America. If I'm a chauvinist, I'm like, America is so good. America should own everything. Everyone else should die. Like that's like chauvinism. Like it's just gross. Like everyone sucks. Like crass, vulgar, right? So a lot of like chauvinism emerges out of this. And then what does that lead to? Also, of course, visceral German hatred, right? Because the Germans are the bad guys who came and did this. Point number 2. Okay, talked a lot about Alsace-Lorraine, but it was worth it because it's really important. By the way, I was going to say something. Oh yeah, speaking of music, about Bieber's album, there's the funniest YouTube comment I ever saw. The funniest YouTube, but people post crap like best of Mozart, whatever Gregorian chant on YouTube, you look at the comments, right? And it's like, oh, only kids who grew up in the 1390s would understand this, it's stupid, right? But the best comment ever was when there was a best of Mozart. And it was like, whatever, all the likes and hundreds of millions of views. The top comment was, Bach's been real quiet ever since his album dropped. That's the best YouTube comment I've ever heard. Okay. Second concert of Europe. The second concert of Europe is very, very simple. Again, I want to simplify things for you, right? I want to set the bar through the moon and give you every possible information, but keep it as simple as possible. Let's do that. The first concert of Europe here is 1815, 1870. GB being circled means, yeah, that's the Pax Britannica. Britain is on top. In the first concert of Europe, 1815, as you all know, the Battle of Waterloo, when Napoleon is defeated. From 1815 to 1870, correlating with whose reign? Who becomes queen in 1837? We talked about her last class. Victoria, exactly. Victoria, the Industrial Revolution, Britain is head of Europe. But in the second concert with German unification, right? Between 1871 and 1914, Germany is the biggest balanced dog in Europe. Despite not having the thing it perhaps wants most, when it says a place in the sun, it wants colonies. It's late to the colonial game. Despite not having that, despite feeling entrapped. If you're thinking now, I'm really bright and I'm a great student and I'm going to connect that, I bet, everything about this class is World War I bet that Germany versus Britain is like the big rivalry in these coming years. And if you guess that, you're exactly right. Do you think Britain likes being knocked off? I've never heard a college football team be like, after they lost being number one in the AP poll, I was glad. Number one was boring. I'm glad I'm number two now. I'm glad that guy's better. I've never heard that. Yeah, I've heard a lot of gracious stuff like they played a great game, good job, we respect them, but we're gonna kill them next time, right? We hate their guts now. Alsace Lorraine style. No one's like, oh yeah, it's cool. I'm glad I'm not number one anymore. And Britain especially, right? Britain is their ego, British ego, which I have no idea why, but is so inflated that I don't know. Can't think of anything the British have ever done in their history that's good. So I don't know why they
They were.
talk about a broad statement. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, the sun never sets on evil. They were so expensive.
Yeah, but they don't have any like good writers or good arguments.
Well, they made arguments.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Just
That's a great point, though, actually being serious. The sun never sets in the British Empire. Yeah, that's why the Germans hated the British too, because they had no colonies in Britain, literally. That's one of the coolest quotes of all time. It's true, right? Because they had, the Indian subcontinent, holdings in Asia, everywhere throughout the world. And this is so offensive today. Colonialism is so bad, is the standard thing. And in many ways, it was very bad and awful. But the British footprint was literally all over the world, where the sun truly never set on the British Empire. There's somewhere where there's a British flag flying and Britain's in control, and it's daytime. That's amazing, and then that's what the Germans wanted. The Germans are going to see. They say, we left for too long. Germany's been in the domain of the clouds, the philosophers. We want our place in the sun. I'm going to read that quote to you today soon. Concert of Europe. Germany takes over power. It sets that rivalry. Treaty of Berlin, 1878. Start talking about some historical stuff. Let's get that historical stuff going. Really awesome. Treaty of Berlin is the end of a war between the Russians and the Ottomans. The Russians defeat the Ottomans because that was their favorite thing to do. People like to, I like to go fishing with granddad. I like to have a smoke and whittle a piece of wood on my backyard. If I'm Russian, I like to beat the Ottomans in the war. That was like their hobby. I'm serious. The Ottomans and then the Russians were fighting. We'll talk about this great game in a second. Fighting for influence over the Black Sea for a long time. And going back to Catherine the Great, and the Ottomans, they weren't good at math. They were like 0 for 8, 0 for 9, 0 for 10, 0 for every time they fought the Germans, Russians, they lost. They kept coming back for more. They maybe I had a baseball teammate once. This guy was hilarious. He's sitting on the bench. He's always had the stupidest comments. I think he was a comic genius, in my opinion. A pinch runner came in. I don't know if you know what a pinch runner is, but a pinch runner is a guy, okay, you're the first baseman of their team, you hit a single, but we want someone who's like super fast. Maybe you're not fast. So a pinch runner comes in to replace you. You're out of the game now. That person comes in, they're in the game for one play, right? That's all their job. They're going to pinch run, they'll stay in and keep their position. They come in. This pinch runner came in, I kid you not, He's in there. His only job is to be fast. He tries to steal second. He got thrown out. And if he got thrown out, he jammed his shoulder. He's diving to second base, shortstop, caught the ball, boom, on the shoulder, right? And he's laying there. And on our team, like, that's great. We threw him out. He's an opponent. Well, all of us have this sympathy here. And we're like, man, that sucks. Guy comes in for one play and he doesn't do his job. He's thrown out and injured at the same time. My friend that goes, and they said, whoa, guys, you got to reverse the way we're looking at this. Like, maybe, imagine if that guy woke up today, came to the ballpark, he's like, I got 2 goals. I got 2 goals today. Get out and get injured. I mean, he just accomplished at the same time. Maybe the Ottomans were like, our goal is to get beat by the Russians time and time and time again. Like, this guy got thrown out. So if they did, good for them. But the Russian hobby was beating the Ottomans. There's 3 considerations that arise out of this Treaty of Berlin. Now, really quickly, Treaty of Berlin equals what? Becca Schmidt. What does that mean for this concert of Europe? The conference is in Berlin. What does that mean? Conference is in freaking Berlin. So they were in the worst nightclubs all night. That's true. That's not what I'm looking for. What does that mean? Conference of Berlin. What would it mean if I had a summit between Vladimir Putin and Biden in Moscow? What would that mean? I'm a freaking power broker. Yeah, buddy, right? People come to Moscow. Exactly. Keep that in mind. Don't, maybe a lot of that slips out of your minds. This isn't random. If people are coming to Berlin, it's already acknowledged 8 years later. Oh yeah, right. This is the place to be. This is the center. This is the center of power. I actually am a Polish citizen. I don't know if you guys know that. I was born in America. I have dual citizenship. I was only an American for the first 24 years of my life, and I became Polish citizen. Excuse me. Proving I'm not an American. I became a Polish citizenship. I got Polish citizenship in 2011, and I'm a dual citizen. I'm super proud to be Polish. My mom was born in Poland. I love Poland. Poland is not that important. It's also in the center. It's not just like, oh look, wow, Berlin. They probably did it because it's central. Poland isn't central too. Poland at this time is not a major power. The heyday of Polish power is in the 1600s. Jan Sobieski and these people that you've never heard of, but really in 1650, it's arguable Poland was the Germany of that time. By this time, though, if you can hold a conference, that's perfect. It means you're important. 3 things come out of this. All people are disappointed. How's that going to affect World War I? Because World War I is this kind of cluster of confusion that one thing after the other leaves people more and more, forgive my language, but kind of just more and more pissed and disappointed. And it builds this idea, well, maybe we need a war to solve these problems. Russia is most pissed. Russia's like, we beat the Ottomans. And we signed this thing called the Treaty of San Stefano earlier. It was going to create a greater Bulgaria. Bulgaria is where? Where is Bulgaria? It's in the place. What is the place when it comes to World War I? I drive around Pullman and people are like, come to the place, which by the way is the worst marketing ever. Like, you named your thing the place. Like, wow, yeah, sign me up. I'd rather be named like, come to the hole in the wall. Come to the creaky door. What is the geographical place for World War I? What is the most important part of Europe for World War I? The first thing we talked about.
Austria.
No, think south of Austria. What's the region? The Balkans. The Balkans are Serbia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Macedonia, Croatia, Albania. That's southern part of Europe. Yeah. So Greater Bulgaria was going to impact the Balkan balance of power. What is the Balkan balance of power? The Balkan balance of power is the Balkan bouncy castle. Is the Russians support the Balkan people because they're all Slavs. I'm a Slav, right? Slavic people, there's common language, right? All the Poles do not like South Slavs and really freaking hate the Russians. So I redact that statement. These are not my people. Slavic people with the Russians, whereas the Austro-Hungarians own this thing, right? This is their backyard. This is their freaking Teddy Roosevelt, speak softly, carry small, big stick, speak softly, carry a small stick. That's the Balkan policy. Be real meek, and then if someone says, you can't do it, check this out. Is that a joke? Okay, fine. Theodore Roosevelt, 1904, his corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, right? Basically said, we America, our backyard is the Western Hemisphere. That's how Austria-Hungary feels about the Balkans. This is our backyard. Everyone's disappointed. Russia's disappointed. Didn't we just freaking beat these guys? And now we want a Bulgaria that's not going to be overridden. You know what the settlement of Berlin is? Just like everyone gets something in a way that the Germans do this. Okay, this is the time of who? Who is the main kingmaker, the main guy in terms of geopolitics between 1870 and 1890? Who is it? You know, between 1870 and 1890, who's pulling all the strings in Europe?
It's not Kaiser Wilhelm.
Joe Biden. It is Otto von Bismarck.
Oh, of course.
Otto von Bismarck.
Makes more sense.
Bismarck, guys, write this down or emblazon it in your head or get a tattoo of it. That'd be cool too. I personally have 17 tattoos. So I'm making my 18th one. Oh, but one guy I know, true story, he wanted to get a tattoo just to get one. First of all, epic fail, right? Total F. But he got just a line here just to try it out. Wow. Okay. Bismarck.
That's your story?
That's a story. Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck. His only consideration is to do this. Okay, Bismarck, you can write down what I wanted you to write down in your tattoo is Bismarck equals genius because he plays everyone off against each other for Germany's benefit. That's great. I wish we had diplomats like that. Like Antony Blinken, Antony Blinken, my bad. Mark Antony Blinken. I wish that he was like that, right? I wish he was like pulling all strings for America's benefit, right? Maybe he is. God bless him. Maybe he's the greatest Secretary of State of all time or not. I have no idea. But that's isn't that good diplomacy? Hey, if you're my queen, right? I come back and you're like, what have you done? Well, Your Majesty, I weakened everybody and strengthened us. You'd be like, let's pull out the champagne, right? The champagne would already be chilled and ready. They could celebrate. So what's the whole point? Bismarck is so brilliant because in this period, he always does that. He makes everyone weaker a little bit, but not too much, not too much. Don't, hey, you got a little bit weaker, not too much. You're okay, we're still friends. That kind of attitude. And at the same time, Germany keeps rising in prestige. Everyone's disappointed. Ottomans are revealed as the sick man of Europe. It becomes their name, like their moniker. Ottomans are really involved in Europe. Ottomans own the Balkans. Please note that. Star that. Ottomans own the Balkans, and they're not going to over the course of these next years up to World War I. Another great cause of World War I, Alsace Lorraine, is going to be what happens to the Balkans in 1912 and 1913. That's for Thursday. Ottomans are revealed as impotent, kind of weak. I actually forget what my last note was. Serbia. Okay, so Serbia vis-a-vis Austria-Hungary and Balkans. Serbia is kind of point number one. They're all left with kind of this feeling of like, well, maybe diplomacy doesn't work, right? It's going to build that kind of irredentist revanchism, even, God forbid, unfortunately, but it did come to pass, kind of terrorist sentiment. Maybe we only can get our ways like the Black Hand kind of stuff. Point number 4, Kazakhstan, great game in Central Asia. The Great Game, what's the main country of the Great Game? Anyone know? If you're following the news now, you'll know the answer. What's the Great Game #1 country? Western powers are interested in exploiting this country, have been forever.
Russia.
Afghanistan, in Central Asia. And the lesson is the same thing always, right? You can't do anything with Afghanistan. It's possible. We're learning that very sadly. God rest their
Oh,
souls.
Central Asia.
Central Asia, sorry. Great game in Central Asia.
Okay, I somehow missed the central part.
Okay, so no problem at all. The Great Game has always been Great Britain versus Russia. But all of you are so brilliant now know, new concept of Europe, the Great Game is going to be Britain versus Germany. Okay, Britain versus Germany. You see, right? How long can you do this? Before you start punching each other in the face, right? Over the course of this time, that's going to be Great Britain and Germany the whole time. And Germany's going to be like, Treaty of London? No, a Treaty of Berlin, right? Who won the last 5 Nobel, main prize? Can you guys remind us? Was it you? Oh, no, it was us. That's right. Who's #1? You guys might actually be number 3. We're #1 though. Like there's a lot of that. And that actually hurt my knuckles. Dang, why was I doing that? I was too focused on the story. Like, my hands hurt now. Wow. And you're probably thinking, like his hands are from that. Seriously? Wow. Great Britain versus Germany. You know what the biggest problem is? The Berlin to blank railway. Where? The Berlin to blank railway. What am I looking for? What city? Berlin to blank railway. Actually, the name is blanked because parts of Saudi Arabia are so just desert and empty. It was called blank Saudi Arabia. So the Berlin to blank Saudi Arabia, Berlin to Baghdad railway. I've never heard of this. Wait a second. Well, hold on. Let me get my notes right. So a European power wants to connect a railway into Asia, into Western Asia, Central Asia, and they want to go all the way to the port city in Iraq for oil. I've never heard of that. I've never heard of Western powers interested in places like Iraq for oil, right, in Kuwait, right? This never happens. Another one of these reasons why I said it when I pitched this class, our modern world is created today. This starts even before the war. This idea of exploiting Middle Eastern oil because that's what runs our economy, right? We're moving away from coal, using oil. This railway will go through Ottoman territory, which the Germans will be allies with, through the Ottoman territory, through Aleppo. Aleppo is a beautiful, beautiful town in what country? In what country?
In Bosnia,
Mhm.
in Serbia.
You're right.
Syria.
There you go.
There.
Yeah, Aleppo during the Syrian war and Bashar al-Assad and all the kind of been used. Aleppo is like I think thousands of years old. Okay, this is another problem, right? The British, when the Germans invade France in World War I, which we're going to talk about obviously coming up, it's falling out of your ears. The Germans invade through Belgium, which is neutral, bad Germans, right? I mean, I could say that's a violation, obviously, of law. Whereas Bethmann Holvig, the real handsome guy, 60 years old, he probably was even more handsome when he was younger, right? He's like, you guys are gonna freaking a piece of paper, Belgium's a joke. Let's both like raid their chocolate shops, right? And Germany's like, Great Britain is like, no, any army that we need Belgium to be our ally always, because any other foreign country that's against us, like you guys, the Germans, right? That's like a loaded gun pointed at Britain across the English Channel. That's another loaded gun here. The Germans are like, if the British, like the Germans build their railway, that's a loaded gun pointed at India, right? So you see already, right? You see how it's coming together, how it's becoming a world kind of thing all throughout. We're gonna talk a lot about Africa next class, the Moroccan crisis, and when the Italians fight the Ethiopians in 1911. This really is a world war. In this class, we're gonna focus so much on Europe and America, but the conflicts are being drawn out across the entire map, including today we're gonna finish with China, actually. If you thought China wasn't, if you were like, you know what, I went to Vegas, they have Gracjan's class there about themes that might come up or not. And it was 600 to 1 odds China comes up. No way China comes up. Oh man, if you placed a $5 bet, you would have got that it will come up. You would have made tons of money. So do that next time. Even China is involved in this. The whole world is involved in this. Japan, which totally stays out of it, they stay out of it after they steal all of Germany's stuff in the East Asian sphere, out of Germany's colonies there. There is the whole world for the first time in human history, because of this early globalization, which is the theme today, right? Is going to be involved. Okay, number 5, 1878 annexation Bosnia-Herzegovina by Austria-Hungary. Where is Bosnia-Herzegovina? It is in the Balkans. It is in this troubled period, Treaty of Berlin. The Austro-Hungarians, remember, and I do want you to think about this. Think of Austro-Hungary, Theodore Roosevelt corollary. So it's a very, very fair kind of good way of looking at it. Just like Roosevelt says in 1904, look, wherever American interests are threatened in the Western Hemisphere is our business. Why did John Bolton, apparently from his story on his yellow paper, write like 5,000 troops to Colombia or something, right? You guys heard that scandal. He did a press conference during the Trump administration. He was going to send troops, whatever, to Venezuela or Colombia or whatever, kind of stuff like that. What's our business in Venezuela, Colombia? That's not a U.S. state. That's not America, right? Well, according to Roosevelt, that's our property. That's how the Austro-Hungarians feel. Okay, the Balkans are not part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and yet that's our backyard. They annexed Bosnia-Herzegovina. What is the capital of Bosnia? All of you know this answer from the first class, from the story I told in the first class. What is the capital? Sarajevo. That's where the assassination will take place. You can't get more on the nose, right? The assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand will take place in Bosnia, in the center of that kind of that most touched wound, kind of. If you're Alsace Lorraine minded, you're a dentist, and you're angry about people taking what you believe is yours. There's no coincidences here, right? It's very much on the nose.
What was he doing there when he was assassinated?
You should have paid attention the first time. He went to.
He was visiting. He was.
Yes. So yeah, and you know.
Beaches?
No. So he probably gave it. He's a man of very few words, but he probably gave a speech. But no, it's a great question, and I'll review this in the class next Tuesday. We'll go back to that speech. But to answer your question now, he was reviewing military exercises. Remember, he went there. the Austro-Hungarian Empire is performing like war games or something. He went to review and he wires very sadly, tragically, Franz Josef, right? Like, the army looked great. I'll be back tomorrow night. And of course, he's dead the next day. I remember, but it was really fun too. It was him and Sophie's anniversary. So it's like a double thing. Like, he went to review the exercises, period. That was the reason. That was the state reason. There's no state allowance for, go have a honeymoon, second honeymoon. It was do that. But on top of that, because they couldn't be themselves back in Vienna, had this fun time, until the assassination tragically turned all that. But the review of the troops is the main reason. Alliances. I've left 1887 versus 1907 blank purposely because we're talking about on Thursday. But alliances start popping up at this time already. 1879, is an alliance between the Germans and Austro-Hungarians. Remember? I mentioned that. It's called the Dual Alliance. This is the Dual Alliance / the German Alliance, if you want. Okay? Remember, these guys were killing each other on a battlefield only 13 years earlier, right? But they're like, it's better for us to be friends. We're stronger together than apart. Very complicated on and off again relationship. Usually Austria calling for the nut. Let's make it work. Germany basically aloof. Triple Alliance, 1882. Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. All right. Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, 1882. Triple Alliance. You can say these two alliances these are kind of the central powers in World War I, right? Who are the allied powers? Who are the main three allied powers? America will become the fourth, but don't mention us yet. Who are the main three? The war is basically, Italy's going to drop out in a second. I'll tell you why. Italy is wow level commitment. But it's basically going to be Germany, Austria-Hungary against what three powers? Who are the allies in the First World War?
So Britain, Russia.
Yeah, perfect. Right, Britain, Russia, and France, and we'll make it the fourth. The alliances are forming at this point. Let me jump over this really quickly here. Number 6, it's super important. Let's come back to that. The lapse of the German-Russian reassurance treaty is devastating. It's connected back to this. We'll talk about it in a second. But basically, remember Bismarck, right? He's so great at like appeasing everyone while kind of scamming everyone, and making Germany. He understood how important it was for Germany and Russia to be allies. I have a question here, Nord Stream 2 today. What does that mean? What is Nord Stream 2? Nord Stream 2 has been in the news. What is Nord Stream 2? You know what that is? It's a gas pipeline that pumps gas from the Russian hinterland, wherever they pump gas from Siberia, directly into Germany. How do you think the Americans, do we like this or not like it?
We are not in love with it.
No, we're in love with it. We're not in love with like British food. We hate this. We hate this idea. We've been trying to block it forever because we're going to lose out. How dare they get their gas from Russia, not from us? Like, I want to be sitting at a bank account and see just like ching, 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 and like freaking, I want to be sitting on a chair and people pouring $100 bills on my head. That's not going to happen if they get their gas from Russia. What American diplomacy often fears is the linking up of these two powers, Germany and Russia, because that will prevent us. US foreign policy is always to divide Eurasia so we can control the seas along with the British. This is way over everyone's head, including my own at this point. What I mean is like, this is not, don't worry about this, just listen, but this is not so apropos for the class. But to make a long story short, Bismarck understood how important it would be if Germany and Russia could be together. That will lapse at this time. And when in 1894, France and Russia sign an alliance, the writing becomes on the wall. The writing goes to the wall. What was the Schlieffen plan? Remember? I said the Germans standing here are like, how do we fight a two-front war against the French and the Russians? Hey, you morons, maybe you didn't have to do that if you would have kept the reassurance treaty and prevented France and Russia from becoming allies. That would have been a better idea, right? But it's already too late at this time. And you see the allies kind of forming. Why will eventually, we'll talk about this next class, 10 years later, 1904, the great alliance between the British and the French. Why will that, the Entente Cordiale, the friendly agreement, why will that come into being? Because the British too are schemers and trying to figure out where can we best position geopolitically, maybe vis-a-vis this, right? Getting our power back that we lost when the Germans unified following Alsace Lorraine. Let's talk about these things like in 2 seconds. So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna finish section number 6. And extras of this era, we've talked enough. There's enough information. This has been a very information heavy lecture. I want to I want to take the air out of the balloon a little bit. Just really quickly, the Boxer Rebellion, number 10 in China, 1900, is just hyper-nationalist China sentiment, anti-Western, anti-Christian, angry that basically all of the colonial powers in the world have been raiding China as they saw it. That Britain, France, everybody is using China as a kind of just like a shop for their spices, their silk, whatever, and we don't like that. We want to kick them out and have China for China, right? Kind of a nationalist movement. What it says is, I mean, that's very important. The kind of like the births in some ways Chinese nationalism, which will later become a democratic and a communist variant going up to 1949 when it becomes the People's Republic of China. But the Boxer Rebellion also shows the tentacle reach of the powers, the Western powers during this time. This time period, 71 to 1914, is about the acquisition of colonies. There's something called the Great Scramble in Africa, getting African colonies, and it's the same in Asia. And if you have this question, why is World War I a world war? Because the people are already all over the world. And the Boxer Rebellion is one more example of this.
We didn't have a big enough empires before this to have a world war.
It's a great point. I don't know. When I tell you something, yes, I want to always give you like my full stamp of approval of like, I say yes, I know 100%. I would like agree with that like 97%. Yeah, it's that's a very great theory. Yeah, that the empires just weren't in enough places to have a lot of the people that died in the first gas attack during World War I, which we'll talk about, tragic mustard gas, are colonial troops, are Black African troops being called up from French colonies. That's a world war. There's only people living in France have been called up from French-speaking colonies in Africa. So exactly, the imperial reach of these things make the world war possible as well. Yeah, very, very good. Hague Conference, really quickly, bans the use of certain kind of weapons, chemical weapons. So as you can tell, if you're like, well, isn't that hypocrisy and a war crime? If they violate this is the principle 4, number 2, declaration concerning the prohibition of the use of projectiles, the sole object to spread asphyxiating poisonous gases. This declaration states that any war between signatory powers, the parties will abstain from using projectiles, the sole object of which, diffusion of asphyxiating or deleterious gases, ratified by all major powers except the United States. 1899. Okay, so 15 years before the war. And the Germans will do perfect legal speak, like, well, we weren't using projectiles, we just were releasing gas, we're not projectiles, so it's cool. I think the point was, don't asphyxiate people with gas, however you do it. I think the guy doesn't care, like, you got gas. I got gas, yeah, how are you feeling? I feel like garbage, oh, whatever. Got good news though, it wasn't from a projectile. Oh, okay, yeah, exactly. The effect's the exact same, what a bunch of BS. Okay, really quickly, this is the big key point we're gonna finish on today. Bismarck, he was so good. Remember I said, how do you define Bismarck? But you define Bismarck by being able to take parts away from people, but only a little bit, keeping them on their side, but all the while strengthening himself, right? Harming everybody else and keeping everyone kind of in a cool system, but strengthening themselves. This is called realpolitik. No one needs translation of what that means. It's realism in politics. Well, what does Welt mean? Becca, what does the German word Welt mean? Right. So we move from realpolitik to now Worldpolitik in 1890 when Kaiser Wilhelm II fires Bismarck. And Weltpolitik is based on this statement that I promised I'd read you. It's the last thing I'm reading you today. Okay, said in the Reichstag, December 6, 1897. Okay, by Foreign Secretary Bernard von Bülow. Listen what he says. This was Weltpolitik. Realpolitik was humble, just focus on yourself, keep everything in order and try to keep Germany stronger, just focus on Germany, right? In one word, we wish to throw no one in the shade, but we also demand our own place in the sun. The next class, we're going to see how Germany really fights for its place in the sun, how that really pisses off a lot of people. Surprise, surprise, right? So the transition from realpolitik to Weltpolitik is another huge cause of the war because it creates a lot of unnecessary enemies, maybe. And Bismarck now is gone, and he's not there to appease people and to lie to them. Bismarck would be like, I know that you lost like 10% of your kingdom. Sorry, it's actually for your better because the research shows that the 10% you lost increases the chance of you not getting attacked by those guys who you hate by 300%. Like he would sell you somehow. Now they're just like double middle finger. You lost 10%. Yeah, it's gonna be 15. Like that kind of like cocky, we're gonna rule the world kind of thing. I'm not trying to. You'll see in this class. I might be accused of being a Germophile in this class and like liking Germany too much. right? It was, we go through this World War. So I'm not blaming the Germans totally, but there will be a lot to blame. It's a Weltpolitik, kind of over exuberant imperial policy that just creates a lot of enemies. Okay, let's look at the photos. We're done with this. All right, Brian and Megan, everyone on Zoom, guys can see this hopefully tolerably. Hope so. If not, Weltpolitik style, I don't care, right? That's the Weltpolitik for you. I do care though. I'm joking. I'm very real politic. I'm very nice politic. That's my diplomacy style. Wow, you're probably like that joke.
That's that small stick.
That's the small stick, yeah. That's the broken small stick. Okay, revanchism, got it, right? The next scenes are all from the Paris Commune. That's fun, right? I fought for France, trying to defend my king, he's captured, I come back and that's the scene in Paris. That's cool, right? Great, thanks guys. It's like in the Civil War, a lot of veterans at Gettysburg had this great battle that stymies the Confederacy, had to be called to put down the New York City draft riots. If you ever seen the movie Gangs of New York with Daniel Day-Lewis, that's the draft riot. So it's like, great, thanks for my reward. I just fought the Confederates, put them down. I have to go fight my own people who are burning New York to ground. It's like, like. If you see, Dave, this is a tidbit for you. That guy, that's Chuck Norris.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Probably fraction is such an appropriately timed thing to look at.
Give me your analysis.
Well, I was just thinking, and we've just gone through a.
We don't do this stuff in America, Betsy. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You? I guess you don't.
I can't comment. Only certain statues. I would topple a statue of Trish Schmidt if Moscow put that up. Can't have that in Moscow. I would topple that statue after I painted it first. Yeah, no, you're right. What is this called? Who can give me the Catholic word?
Iconoclasm.
Yeah, buddy, you're a freaking genius, really, for real. Yeah, iconoclasm, statue smashing, to smash statues, iconoclasm. Yeah, it goes back to the Second Council of Nicaea, 787. It's why the Orthodox, our Orthodox brethren who are wrong, they write icons. They don't have 3D statues because of the iconoclast controversy. Catholic Church, which is correct, said that you're not, to worship a statue of the Blessed Mother would be blasphemy. Say that that statue is Our Lady, but to look at the statue as a helpmate for the real, who is the actual real, more real than reality, Queen of Heaven, as a prayer aid is holy and beautiful. And we can have statues. You just don't worship statues. You worship Christ, who's represented by that, right? Again, everyone knows these things, but yeah, it's iconoclasm controversy is very old in church history too, not just the kind of secular iconoclasm.
So that photo, so these are the bourgeois.
Yeah. Well, no.
I mean, the proletariat.
Yeah, exactly. It's the
And
anti-bourgeois.
the statue represents.
I forget. No, yeah, I'll remind me by email, or maybe I'll just remember. I'll get you the actual statue and the significance. I was really going for more of this just very general kind of look how Paris fell into. But yeah, no, there is some kind of symbolism. I wasn't expecting questions. Yeah, yeah. It's like all the people today. Like, so can you tell me about X? Well,
Not my notes.
Yeah. The worst is when a politician comes on and it's fine when it's like, all right, hey gang, we're all in this together. It's tough. It's a pandemic. We got to bind together, do what we can to stop this. We're all in it together. I believe in you, Idaho, right? That's fine. When it's like, we are all in this together. This pandemic has been challenging for all Idahoans. I hate that. Like, just get off the screen. Like, literally, you're an embarrassment. Okay, this is Paris. Okay, this is the Hague Conference, 1899, and it's like, whoa, cool, wow. I only have like 12 photos for you today, very, very small amount of photos. When we get to the battles, like I said, Marne, Verdun will have like probably 80, 90 slides, a lot of detail. But this is very taken for granted today, but it's one of these big meeting of these delegates from all over the world coming together. You have the interconnected world that will lead to the bad kind of overextension of empire and the war itself, but also this kind of hope cooperation too, right?
And you notice that all over the world is all European looking?
Well, no, I wouldn't say specifically. These guys look like these guys are Asian diplomats in the front right here.
Okay.
This guy has some kind of fez on. I don't know.
Maybe I
Yeah,
need
he's
to
an
get
Ottoman,
one.
maybe. Yeah. Well, and sure, no, and again, I'm serious, like without getting too like kind of these kind of obnoxious culture wars today, but like, of course, like we should call out the racism of that time when it was, and like World War I, there's a lot of very racist parts of the Versailles Treaty where certain Asian delegates wanted to talk to Woodrow Wilson. And he literally just said like, no, I don't mean this for you. I mean this for like Europeans. I mean, that's racist and should be called that. It's true. Without going overboard, like everything is racist, but there was, but this time, no, I think it was fairly balanced. Yeah. But that's a fair point. I'm sure it was skewed towards Europeans, definitely, as everything was this time.
Not
Dave, yeah.
many women either.
That's good. That's a good thing.
I didn't even think about that.
They're on the painting.
I know,
there,
but yeah, why would you think about that? Why would there be women there? I don't. What country has the largest amount of female representatives, like female senators, congresswomen? Anyone know? Italy. I think Italy's like ruling body is more than half women, 60% even.
Is that because they don't have children, so they can?
I don't know, but anyone know who the politician Giorgia Meloni is? Look her up. That's your assignment for today. Giorgia Meloni, Meloni. Georgia, she's the head of Fratelli d'Italia, the Brothers of Italy. She might be the next Italian president. She's the only person in opposition to the current government. Her party has gained like 22%, which is massive. Giorgia Meloni, she's really cool. I guess I'm kind of showing how I feel about her, right? I can't really
Showed
say.
us a clip of her. I think.
Yeah, she's
pretty
a
good.
young woman, like 45 maybe. But Giorgia Meloni, I would argue, is the most dynamic female politician in the world today, more so than even Angela Merkel. She's on her way out. Merkel's stepping down.
Yeah.
Giorgia Meloni is, I would say, the most important female politician in the world. I think so. Who cares what I think? But she might become the first female president in Italian history, people say. But depending on the next election, will be allowed to take place because of the pandemic. Okay, and this is Scenes from the Boxer Rebellion, and then this is September 2nd, 2021.
Hmm.
Okay. Brian and Meg, Pope Francis, thank you for joining us today. That joke is, it's like, the quality is negative, like it's the -1. It's
You mean
so,
that's a joke?
yeah, exactly,
He's not really on?
right, exactly. He's not on,
Oh, man.
he's not on. Okay, so I'm trying to think of the most awkward way to end this class. Like I'm maybe to do it this way, like, so, okay, bye, and then click off. But really, thank you, thank you for joining us today. I'll see you all on Thursday. Brian and Meg, it's such an honor, truly, with all sincerity, to have you on the
They
Zoom.
typed anything in the chat?
Betsy wants to know if you typed anything in the chat, and I'm confirming here that there's nothing typed in the chat. Okay, well,
We'd love to hear from them.
Betsy would love to hear from you. But she does not want to send you a Christmas card. So positives and negatives. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Thank you so much again. Have a wonderful day.